Well, all welcome back to Not Just Lessons from Our Animals. I'm Emma, and I have another guest for all of you today. Her name is Donna Hamer, and I'm so excited to share her with all of you because she is a fellow animal communicator. We were just reminiscing about how we found each other. And this topic that we're going to talk about today is so important and in many circles, very taboo, right? A lot of people don't want to talk about this topic, and yet it's maybe one of the most important topics for us to be talking about in general. And we are focusing on animal communication. So, with our animals, which the topic is death, death and grief and losing our animals and how we move through that process and how we get to quote unquote the other side, which I don't know that we ever get to another side, but the way that we walk through the experience can become different. And Donna has a book out. We will talk about it, give you all the details. They will also be in the show notes. And yeah, so buckle up because it's going to be so good. And so, Donna, thank you for being here. I'm so excited, like I said. And just like I do with, the few guests that I've had on here, is I want to ask you what has led you to this season of your life? Like, what has gotten you to where you are now? And right, that can be so many different things, whether it's how you're experiencing life with your animals, what you're doing in your business, animal communication, anything and everything. And also, Donna is located in Australia, which is super fun and just like also amazing because you're in summer right now. So I am getting all the warm vibes from you through the camera. So
I'll send the warm vibes. Hello
thank
and
you.
welcome. Thank you for having me here. It's very exciting. Um, it's an interesting question about seasons. Uh, Primarily, I used to work for lawyers and I moved into training and I moved into digital marketing. I did a whole array of things, which I loved, but I always, from knee high to a grasshopper, wanted to work with animals. And so my parents said, "Why don't you be a vet?" I couldn't be a vet. I would have cried. I couldn't have done all this. And then there were so many things that come out. I'd like to be a vet now and work in a zoo. I mean, how much fun would that be, right? But I just couldn't do that. Couldn't go there. Couldn't go death. So that does make me laugh now when we talk about our subject today. But about I'd say 10 years ago, I started working more closely doing communications with animals.
Yeah.
And I didn't really even know it was a thing to start with. And a lady said to me, "Oh, I can do this." And I was thinking, "Oh, yeah, right." And anyway, I adopted a golden retriever, and this lady gifted me an animal communication session. And I went, "Yeah, a bit of fun. I love a psychic. Let's go."
Yeah.
And this lady was talking to me, and what she was telling me was like, I went, "I know that. How did I already know that?" So that's what got me onto this path of being an animal communicator. And then when I had a mentor, she said to me, "Donna, what would you like to do?" And I said, "I want to work with end of life and pets in spirit." And she said, "Oh, why would you want to deal with death and dying?"
Oh,
And considering I said I couldn't be a vet because of that,
yeah.
I don't know, I just knew that that was something I felt I could help people with. So whilst I do work with living animals, I do a lot of work with pets in spirit.
Yeah.
2.5 years ago, my beautiful golden retriever passed, and that's what led me really into dealing with my own grief and writing of the book. But I'll talk about that later. So, yeah, my long story is that it's just what I always wanted was to work with animals, and now I get to live every single day and do what I love. So it's not like working. I love what I do, and I
Yeah.
love to be able to help people on this journey.
Oh, I love that. And I also love, I find it so interesting, right? That when we look at our journeys, it's usually the things that we have the biggest resistance to that are the thing. Excuse me, right? That are the gift, that are like what we're meant to be stepping into. So I love that you're like, I can't do that because death and dying. And then now here you are doing death and dying. Excuse me, I have got to take water. Wow. So I just love that. I think it's such a great thing for all of us to take a look at too in our lives, right? If we are, oh my goodness, if we're wondering, what is my gift or what is my service in the world? Potentially it's looking at childhood and seeing what was the innate desire that was building there, and or looking at any place within your life that you had this like deep resistance to something. There's likely some kind of nugget there. So I love it. I love that you had such resistance to it and now it's the thing that you do. So, and I just love that our animal communication journeys are so similar. I don't know what is wrong with my voice right now.
I think you got a fur ball.
I know it's so weird. I love that our journeys are so similar because I also was like, wait, animal communication's a thing? Like that, what does that even mean? And then come to find out, yeah, you can do it too. And so here we are getting to do the things that don't feel like work, which hopefully also gets to be expanders for other people who are wanting to do the thing that serves and like fills up their soul, that yeah, you can. And like we need more of it. So I love, okay, so you talked about some of your animals that you have gotten to go through the whole life cycle with. And so maybe what we start with is like what led you, mm, or like what has been one of your biggest experiences with death that made you want to go into it more? Does that make sense? Like the thing that
So
made you say, I want to spend more time and energy here.
I don't know. I really honestly can't tell you what was that calling. Why did that seem to be what I said I wanted to really focus on? And my mentor drove me away from it and said, no, you don't want to do that, Donna. But yet I'm back on that path because obviously that's what my soul calling is.
Yeah.
When you ask what is my biggest lesson, and I'm not a quiet person. I'm a Leo. I like fun and laughter, and it raises my vibration, right? So I'm not really good. When you're crying on a call with me, I'm laughing. I'm not laughing at you. I'm laughing at what the animals often tell me because they're wanting me to help lift your spirit, your soul, and know that there is life after death, etc. So, um, so one of my biggest lessons, I guess, is that the gift that I have is that the messages that they bring through are often very uplifting and they help with healing.
Yeah.
And, for me, when I had to deal with my own soul dog, I call him my soul dog, it was Ajax, who you've connected with. He was a beautiful golden retriever. Now, I had him from 8 weeks old. He arrived in my life when I had breast cancer. He was my everything, right? He was there with me, my support for everything, my rock. And so when I found out he had lymphoma cancer,
Oh,
I really had difficulty accepting it because I went, no, you can't. You can't. I'm not ready for you to pass. When the year before, my other golden retriever passed, and the year before that, my other golden retriever passed. So I had six pets pass in 6 years. And I'm saying to him, no, you can't. You're only 13. Fergie lasted to 16. Surely you can. And for him, I really had to step back. The animal communicator wanted to do all these things, and the human wanted to do all these things and fix him. And I actually had to step back and allow him to transition through his own journey. And, the vet would say, give him this, stuff this down his throat and all that. And I would go, that doesn't feel right for him. And it was so hard watching your pet pass away in front of your eyes
yeah.
and going, I could be spending thousands of dollars, but that wasn't his journey and that wasn't what I was supposed to experience with him. So that was my big lesson, allowing them to travel on their own journey. And look, I would never leave a pet in pain, never, ever. But he passed peacefully. I held him and cuddled him for 48 hours. We camped out on the floor and I watched him peacefully pass, and it was such a gift and an experience. I feel like those experiences I've been through have really brought me to the place that I am when I can talk to people and when I laugh and I say things and I think, oh my God, I got to stop it, Donna. And I do apologize and say, I'm sorry, but your pet's telling me this and I can't stop laughing. And it really raises my vibration to share that gift of healing with them.
Yeah. It's so important, right? It's so important to not change the message, regardless if it feels okay or not, right? If it feels like it's the right time, it's appropriate. Like it's appropriate because they're deeming it so. And we don't get to dictate what they say or how they say it or when they say it. We just get to be the bridge in which to share such message. And I love that you shared about the your lesson being, allowing the animal to get to dictate and guide the journey just as much as you or anybody else. Because how easy is it for us to give that power over to the vet to say, oh, I'm supposed to be giving them all these pain meds, or I'm supposed to be giving them all these different kinds of medications that actually, if I were to ask them, they don't feel good. They make them feel like not themselves, and they don't actually want them, right? They don't feel like they need them. And so being able to get to have that kind of relationship with them and be able to ask, what do you want? How do you want this to go? Is such a gift for you and also for them as well. And I would love to know from your perspective why you think maybe people are so avoidant of death, why people are so like don't want to talk about it, don't want to think about it, or um also don't really want to deal with it, right? And so I think sometimes we get into, I don't want to deal with end of life and the dying side of it. So I'm going to preemptively help them transition so I don't have to kind of go through that, even though we might say it as like, we don't want them to be in pain or we don't want to drag something out. So we're going to preemptively do something to help them so we don't have to watch them decline, right?
So isn't it interesting? For a human, I mean, they do offer it and they are changing it now, but there was a time when euthanasia was just not on the cards for humans
Yep.
and they would transition through. And then it's interesting that they'll euthanize a pet, but to me, I have to say sometimes, and look, I'm not against vets. I love them. I've got some
Mhm.
amazing vets, but are we putting a pet down? And I don't like using those words, putting a pet down. I like to say transitioning or help them transition.
Yeah.
But are we doing this at times that they can still actually have a good, healthy life? And
Hmm.
I'll give you an example of Fergie. Oh my God, I love that boy, right? He was 16 years of age.
Wow.
He had a droopy mouth. I adopted him at 9.5,
Oh, wow.
and he had trouble with his back legs. He started having incontinence. And if you took him to the traditional vets, they would say it's time to let him go.
Hmm.
And I said, I'm not ready to do that. Now, was it Donna not ready to do that, or was it Fergie not ready? But I just went, I don't believe he is ready to go yet. And
Yeah.
I am prepared to do whatever it takes to help him. Now, he was on arthritis tablets, I think, for pain, but there was nothing else wrong with him. He was an extremely healthy dog.
Yeah.
But sure, he couldn't hold on all night. And I mean, honestly, what's 16 times whatever dog years are? It's probably like
Totally.
100, right?
Yeah.
So I used to call it, we would have a spa day in the morning. And then I'd take him outside and I'd wash him all up and I'd put crystals on him. And I used to laugh. We had such a
Love it.
good time, right? And I took him to my other vet, my holistic vet, and she said, Donna, I don't think he's ready to go yet either. And I said, well, thank God someone's on my side here. And off we went home, and that dog survived another 5 more months,
Oh,
right? Sure, I had to use a help me up harness to get him outside, but we had great time. We would lie on the front lawn together and snuggle, and I'd take photos of us, and there'd be this beautiful rainbow over the top of him, aura.
yeah.
And we would do all these things. One Friday afternoon, I walked outside. So I'd had him out the front of the house. He wasn't going to walk away anywhere because it was beautiful and sunny out there. And I went out with his dinner. He took one mouthful and put his head down. And I said, now he's ready to go, right? Because he loved food. He would drag
Yeah.
himself anywhere for food.
Right.
But I knew then in my heart. And so it was this point of going, what can I do to support him?
Yeah.
And I kept getting the message he wanted a natural passing, he wanted to do it on his own. So I was supporting that. But sadly, he got all these pressure sores,
Mhm.
right? He got a bladder infection, he got these pressure sores. And I said to him, I can't do this. I can't watch you going through this. And I couldn't get pain relief for him because they wanted me to drag him into the vet surgery to give him pain relief, to
Oh,
bring him back home. And I said, look, I can't go through this. So I said to him, I'm going to book in at home euthanasia, and you've got X amount of days. And if that doesn't happen naturally in that time, then this is what I'm going to do because I can't watch you. It was me. I can't watch you.
yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So that was what I did with him. And at the time when the vet came, he didn't even lift his head up. I'd swear if I waited 2 more hours, he probably would have naturally passed.
Yeah.
But it's this, to me, people don't want to talk about death and dying. But if you actually talked about it, and so if you were to do a call with me, Emma, I would say to you, make a call to your vet, find out your options. Can I get some relief if they're at home doing this? What is this? What is that? Do people come to the house? What does a cremation cost? How can I cremate them? And if you're armed with all this knowledge and your pet's still okay for another X amount of months, it takes a lot of that stress away.
Mhm.
And one thing I also say to people is if you're going on a holiday, write a little will out for your dog. This is what I'd like. This is this, this is that. So if you're not there to support them, somebody else knows what your wishes are and their wishes are,
Yeah.
right? Because I had four seniors and we would go away on holidays, and I didn't want someone making a call for my pet if I couldn't be there to answer those questions.
Totally.
And like little Jess was 19, so this was a poodle I'd adopted at 16. She was a hot mess. Look, here's a little card that I created for her. She
Oh
was a
my
little,
goodness.
she was a little hot mess. She had everything going wrong with her, right? She had Cushing, she was blind, she was deaf, and all this. And so I discussed with my vet, if something happens to her while I'm away, this is what I'd like you to do. Right. And she said, wouldn't it be great, Donna, if more people come and talk to their vets? Because I didn't want somebody saying she was really sick. Long story short, we were away. She eats a block of chocolate.
Girl,
So they
that is
took it,
not it.
pumped her tummy. 19, right? She survived. But it's like this interesting thing. So I always encourage people to talk about it. And I feel if you can talk about it, be open, it's not as stressful. I say to my son, I'm going to die one day. This is what I want you to do. I want to be cremated and I want to be planted as a tree so a dog can wee on me. And he
Okay.
goes, I don't want to talk about it, Mum. And I go, we should all talk about it because
Yeah.
it makes it so much easier. If your pet's getting towards end of life, start talking to your children about what's happening
Mhm.
because that could be their first encounter. And
100%.
don't tell lies or don't go through these things of them thinking, oh, if the dog goes to sleep, well, they've died. Will I die when I go to sleep? Because this brings
Mm,
along some problems for them. So I think I've given you a long story, but anyway, there you
so
go.
good. No, there's so many important things there, right? Because asking the vet about options and things, right? It's making the unknown the known, which tends to be why we become so avoidant and scared of something like death because it's an unknown. And the more that we can make it known, the less scary it can be because now something that was shrouded in darkness is now in light and we get to see it a little bit more clearly. And so I love that, right? It's asking ourselves, what do I need to know that's going to make me feel better about this scenario? And then maybe it's also asking our animal, whoever's going through it, what do you need to know? Or what do you want me to know in order for you to feel better about what's happening? Right. Because it's not a surprise to them, right? They understand what's happening. So death is
Absolutely.
not like you're not pulling one over on them of like, we're not going to talk about it. So you're not worried about it. They're like, I know what's happening to me.
I'm
Like,
secretly making a call that you don't know about.
yeah, like I know. And so I love like how can you help your human walk through this in a better way? And this my next question feels like it might be helpful in that kind of capacity that it can be difficult to know on this side of things, which is because you do communicate with so many animals who are in the beyond, who have transitioned in spirit, no longer living, all however you want to talk about it. What how would you describe the like most common energy that you experience from them? So maybe not like the place because I think that is like very different depending on different animals and different things, but like what is the animal's experience, right? Like what are you conveying to somebody about the state of their animal in the afterlife that might
Well,
help them feel different, have more information now in the living about what is on in the beyond?
well, for me, I always feel so calm when I connect to them, right? And it's like there's a big feeling of love comes over me because they want their human to know that, it doesn't matter whether I'm living or past, that love connection's always there, right? And um, so when I'm doing a reading, I'll call it a reading, a connection, whatever you want to call it. I ask people to give me 5 questions.
Mhm.
It's not because I really need questions, but I want you to focus on what you want to get out of this session in that time, right?
Totally.
And then I don't read it, so I'll just start talking away. And then it's funny, I laugh because I'll come back and I'll start reading their questions, and I will have already spoken about a lot of it.
Mhm.
But often blame and guilt is such a huge thing. And that'll be like something that'll pop up straight away, like, forgiving yourself, or there's nothing to blame, or, I already knew you were talking about that for the last 6 weeks. And they're like going, but I didn't think you know. So for me, the pets are in this peaceful state, but also, often they'll tell me crazy things, or I'll see crazy things that they're doing, like running, 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 running. Like, look at my legs, particularly if you've had a pet that has been unable to walk or something's happened to their legs. They show me all those things. So, you know, for me, I just get a lot of love and joy out of it all, right? But I know that they're in a place where they're accepting and happy with.
Yeah. Okay, so follow-up question. Do you or have you ever connected in with an animal in the beyond who is like just having the worst time ever?
I haven't. Have you?
Yeah. I have not. I have not.
I was going, oh my God, something just, no, I have never,
No,
ever.
I it feels important to be able to say that so clearly for people
No,
to say, oh, well, that's the most common maybe that she experiences, but what if there's one animal that is having a terrible time in the afterlife because of the way that they passed or, whatever the circumstances are. And I think it's so important for everyone to hear. No.
no. I have never
No.
experienced that. And I've never experienced an animal saying, you were the worst parent ever.
Yeah, 100%.
It's always coming from a beautiful, uplifting place.
Yeah.
And although, let's throw it out there,
Yeah.
I did recently speak to a lady who'd been told quite a few very negative things,
Oh.
and she was devastated, like basically told that she had done wrong and blah, blah, blah. Anyway, she'd put it out on a forum. And I swear to God, there was about 120 people commented that is not their experience.
Oh, yeah, totally.
And so, I was really felt for her because she felt like she'd done the wrong thing. And that's why I like to say to people, listen, those pets are experiencing a journey, but you're never going to do the wrong thing by them because they know what's going on. They organize so much.
100%.
They're in charge of it. You might think you are, but they're actually in charge of it.
Yeah. Yeah. You might think you are. Yeah. 100. Yeah. I love that.
And, and yeah, so I just want to say that to people that, if you do run into somebody that gives you some negative, bad, just dismiss that because that is not what your pets would want you to be going through.
Yeah, yeah, it feels like that gets to be another opportunity for you to maybe double check, right? Like maybe reach out to somebody else and be like, "Hey, can you confirm or can you like what do you get? Because this is what I received." And it's hard because right when you're so wrapped up in emotions when it comes to your animals, and it can be because of death, it can be because of so many different things, right? But when we're so wrapped up in the emotions, it can be so hard to be in that centered place of being able to know what feels true or what doesn't feel true to you in that moment. If you are able to, right, and you get a message from somebody that says, "Oh, your animal said XYZ," that you're able to say, "Okay, does that resonate or does that not resonate?" So I can myself kind of discern what is true. And if you're unable to, there are lots of people out there that you can contact to say, "Hey, what the heck?" I will say I have communicated with animals who are in the beyond who are upset about being in the beyond, but not because anybody did anything wrong. They're upset because they're no longer getting to be able to be in the physical and getting to support their people in that way,
Yeah.
and at the same time so happy to not be in the physical so that they can support their people in a bigger way because their physical body was deteriorating to a place where they couldn't do all the things they wanted to do with their person, and now in the beyond they can. But then it's the and both of it all, right? And so yeah, I think it's important for us to have the conversation of what is the experience that happens on the other side, because we don't all get to experience it, right? I am of the belief that we all have the ability to communicate with animals, and that's not the path and journey for everybody in this lifetime. And so it's why there are some of us who do it as a more full-time situation to be able to give it to others in that way. So you also work with a lot of people in loss and grief, and you have a Facebook group. Do you want to say what the Facebook group is for people to find it?
It's called Pet Loss and Grief Support. Now there is lots of grief groups out there with
Yeah.
similar names. So
So it'll be in the show notes.
if you're going to look for the one that's got a picture of a golden retriever on there because that's predominant on all my things.
Yeah, okay, perfect. And so because you see people going through it and you do a lot of your sessions live, on call, so you're talking to people way more than I talk to people. What is it that feels like it would be important to tell people about the process of grief, or what you want them to know going into it, or what you've seen people struggle with the most, that if they just knew this one thing, it could be supportive, or anything that comes up around anything that I just said that would feel supportive to, because I mostly talk about animals, right? And I never rarely talk about the people side of it all because I don't talk to people in the same way. And so it feels like this is such a unique opportunity for us to get to hear the human side of it all from you. So the floor is yours.
I think for me, when your pet passes, grief is normal, right? Some people try and turn around and go, that's not happening, and off they walk, right?
Yeah.
And I think it was like I said to you, Emma, I kind of stuffed the grief into my pockets because I didn't want to face it. It's not that well, when I say it's not that I didn't want to face it, I thought that I was good with it, right? Because, I talk about it every day. I would do at least 10 plus animal communication sessions with pets in spirit a week.
Yeah.
So it comes up all the time. In fact, the day that Ajax passed, I had four that day, right? So but I was popping my stuff away because I didn't want to face it. And I realized I stopped walking. I didn't want to talk to people because what if they asked about him? I
Oh,
stopped eating. I was having panic attacks, and I didn't really realize that those panic attacks were attributed to this. And it wasn't until I actually wrote that book that I realized that all these things about grief was what I was experiencing, but I didn't know that's what I was experiencing.
mm,
And I tried to push it away. But if you don't work your way through it or at least acknowledge it,
yeah,
it has long-term effects on you, right? And if you are going through grief and you are having a panic attack, one of the simplest things to do is just stop and take a deep breath. And whether you want to connect with the sun and connect with the earth and do some circular breathing, or, I say use your five senses. Just stop for a moment. What can I smell? What can I hear? What can I see? Go through your five senses, which is something we teach people in animal communication, right? Tuning into your senses. But
yeah,
it's a way of grounding yourself and bringing yourself back. And if you only did something really simple like that and bringing back into that moment, it helps you move through that anxiety or that panic attack,
yeah,
right? Because some people, it's just one way of dealing with it. The other way is just journaling. I've got questions in the book. I think I've got 140 questions in the book.
wow,
But even if you write a letter to your pet, and one thing I say to people is reframe it. Say, for instance, you did go to the vet, and I'll give you the example of Chloe. So I took her to the vet and I said, I'd like to get pain relief for her. Now, she was a 13-and-a-half-year-old golden retriever. On the Friday, we started walking, she collapsed. You try carrying home 35 kilos and walking two other golden retrievers. I got her home. I got acupuncture and chiro done for her the next day because I thought she'd done something, slipped a disc in her back.
yeah,
And the following morning, she hadn't got up and she'd weed everywhere. So I thought I'll take her to the vet. It's a Sunday. I'll get pain relief and I'll take her to my own vet on Monday. And when I walked in there, he said, you need to euthanize this dog and we need to do it now. And I said, I'm not ready. She's not ready. We're not ready.
excuse
And
me, sir, I came for pain meds.
he wouldn't let me leave, right?
Wow.
And in that moment, I was powerless to deal with this. And that's how I feel it's often when we are dealing with death is we become powerless because we don't think or others understand us and others aren't supporting us. So, you know, gets back to that question we said before, talking about it, understanding the process, understanding where you're going, and being able to advocate for your pet before that time and then advocate for yourself after. And
Mhm.
it's okay to talk to people, but if you feel like that passing wasn't right, reframe it, right? What would have you liked to have happened? So, journal that down so that you're not running through all this negative in your mind. You're reframing it and putting it out there in a better way. And so there's some of the things that, I've really learnt to work through or talk to people about because it helps then in your mind when you're talking about your pet that has now passed.
Yeah. Oh, I love that. Especially, right, so many of us and so many of the people we've worked with have had passings that didn't necessarily feel great, right? For whatever reason, the passing was not the way that they envisioned it to be. And I love the journaling. I love the reframing it. And something that I was seeing and came through when you were saying that was also potentially taking the time, if this is something that resonates with people, to sit and connect, or you don't have to sit, you can be walking, but like to get still, however you want to do that, and connect in with your animal that passed that you have, that it was not the passing you wanted, and do that healing together because that's something that you can do together regardless if their body's here or not, right? Our spirit is not just in our body. Our spirit is way too big to just be in our body. So being able to allow ourselves to be in that relationship and find that relationship again even once they've gone, and you can find that yourself. You don't have to always go through an animal communicator, right? You can do that on your own and find your way of doing that. And that feels like it can be really supportive, but also really hard, right? Especially with any passing that wasn't the best to be able to come together and say, that didn't go the way I wanted it to. And they would probably be like, yeah, same. And then be able to have the healing that comes together with it, right? And just allowing yourselves to be fully honest with each other. I think that's relationships, right? So I love
Absolutely.
that so much. And I love that there's questions and prompts and things in the book. And the book's called Pet Loss and Grief. And you can get it on Amazon, correct? Ah,
Yes, you
there it is.
can.
Oh, so good.
I love this book, and it's so funny. I've written this book. I've got 20 other people who have added their stories in here as well. So it's not
Yeah.
just all Donna. Um, and some of them relate to animal communication stories. Some of them relate to just their process of their pets passing. But I'll be on a call, and all of a sudden I go, oh, blah blah blah, and I think, "Oh, that's right, that's in my book. Go to page so and so."
I love that.
It's this whole, like, I've got a whole section for children in here, right? And a section on
Yeah.
rituals. And I always go to them, hang on a second, go to this page. This is where you'll find it all. And
You're like,
and so this became a resource from the knowledge that I've gained through being an animal communicator and dealing with my pets passing.
yeah.
So, it wasn't just kind of plucked out of there of stratosphere. I've been through those experiences, and I feel like I've lived through quite a few journeys.
Yeah. It sure sounds like it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But that's what happens when you adopt senior pets, right? They don't all live a long time,
A
but
hundred
they all
percent.
live a beautiful experience. Like, I would never have given up the 3 years I spent with little Jess. She was the poodle. But the grief that I went through with her was continuously thinking, is she going to die? Has she passed away? Is
Yeah.
she this?
Are you
Because
breathing?
I would
Yeah.
come downstairs and look at her, and I'd go, she's not breathing. And I'd get over and really close, and then I'd be starting to panic about she's passed away and what am I going to do? Because, there's different types of
Yeah.
of anticipatory drift. You're anticipating it happening. And then if you'd open the fridge, you'd be like, oh, hello, what have we got?
I know. I was just thinking when you were talking about like, is she breathing and getting close? I'm just picturing her being like, "What are you doing?" And you're like, "Oh my gosh, be more alive!" Like this, you're freaking me out. And my
I
dog's
mean,
looking at me.
that
I,
little dog, she was so funny. Somebody was put on Facebook that they needed somebody to look after a poodle for 3 days, can't have other dogs, can't do this, can't do that. And I don't know what obsessed me to do it, but I called up, or possessed as opposed to obsessed, called up and said, look, I've got two old dogs. I don't think there'll be a problem. If you're really stuck, I can look after this little girl. And they said, we'll be there in 30 minutes. And I'm thinking,
oh,
I'm
all
not
right.
quite ready for that. When she came in, it was like this little tour of duty. She walked through the house. I said, you know that dog's deaf, don't you? And they went, oh, we wondered why she doesn't come when you call her. And then I like watched her, and it's like they took her back, and they took all these teeth out, and they took these lumps. They put her through the ringer, and
Wow.
she had a 6 out of 6 heart murmur, and they finally put her on heart meds.
Wow.
And then the mum was going to take her back because she'd been in hospital, but she ended up going into aged care. So they said, after the little dog had lived with me for 4 months, we're going to send her out to a rescue. And I went, you can't do
I don't
that.
think so. Yeah.
That was, and so I said, I'll keep her. And they said, well, she'll only last a couple more months. Well, I had 3 beautiful years with her. She cracked me up with laughter so much. Like, I've got a video of her trying to play with my golden retriever, and she's 18, still trying to play with him, like, come on, come on. And he's like going, I'm not coming near you. You're tiny and fragile. But it was so beautiful. And I just feel truly blessed that I was able to go through that experience with her.
Yeah. Oh,
You
what a
know,
gift
so
that you gave her too, with all of that, especially with people that it sounds like may have not given her those 3.5 years that you did give her. And so what a gift that, you all got to have in that experience. And I'm always going to picture you being like, "Are you breathing?" Yes. Um, okay, before we like fully wrap up, this feels important to ask. And so I want to ask for maybe for people who are having animals that are getting not like at the end, right? That are like, okay, we got to like talk about transition, but are getting older. Like my dog's 12 and I have like freaked out basically the entire time I've had him. His entire life of like you're going to die young. That was like my big fear because he was stressed and anxious, and then, my journey led us to that not being the case. And now he's 12 and I'm like, "Oh, but he's great." And we're getting towards the end of the life, right? Whether it's 4 years, whether it's a year, 2 years, whatever. And so when people are getting maybe a better way to say it is like senior pets, whatever you like name that as, whatever age you name that as, what are there any, conversations, or are there any topics or anything that you would say like, yeah, this would be a great time for you to start having this kind of conversation with your animal or with yourself or with whoever, uh on top of all the things you've already said. So maybe those things are all still true. And if there's anything else that you're like,
Well,
yeah.
I would definitely encourage people to sit down with themselves, with a vet, with an animal communicator, with a friend, and talk about end of life. You can talk about your own, but you can also talk about your pets and what are your beliefs? What would you like to happen to you? What would you like to happen to your pet? How does that feel for you, right? Because we can plan out everything and it becomes a completely different experience. But I feel like if you've gone through this process of asking the questions, learning more about it, what's this, what's that, you become prepared for when that time comes up that you think, oh, wow, my dog or my cat is starting to really get towards end of life. I'm feeling comfortable with that because now how will I support them?
Yeah.
So, a lot of people I might get on a call and I go, you understand that your dog's got arthritis. Have you been giving them some relief for arthritis? Oh, no, I didn't know that. Great. Well, you can get this and you can get this. Here's some holistic solutions that you could add into their day to day that will support them so that instead of them being struggling, actually you might be able to offer them more of a quality of life, right? So sometimes people just don't even understand that basic, say, CBD oil could take away the pain of arthritis,
Mhm.
but don't have to take that from me. Go and learn about it. Go and research, right? There's
Yeah.
loads of research out there. I like to really help people understand of like, well, what can I naturally give them? Adding, say, green sardines in with their green mussels or
Yeah, that's what I
sardines.
was thinking.
What can you add into their food? So educating yourself more about elderly pets.
Yeah.
What can I give them? You don't have to rush down and take everything off the shelf at the vets. We can naturally give them foods and bits and pieces. And then when they might get to this point that really nothing's working, then I might look at what I need to give them more from a veterinary point of view to support them because a lot of the tablets out there do have effect on their organs. So it's just about educating yourself, asking yourself, just because I say take this, and this doesn't mean that that's right, wrong, or indifferent. You have to decide what
Yeah.
sits for you and resonates for you. And then I feel like when people are more armed with this knowledge, they can be making decisions. Now there is information about there, like if your pet's doing this, what it means is like veterinary associations put it
Yeah.
out. And some of that is good having that knowledge as well.
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't realize that they're standing there with their head against the wall actually means that they might be getting sundowners, and that could be cognitive decline. And it's so interesting that people
Yeah.
don't realize all these things, right? So it's just educating yourself a little bit more so that when we are getting towards the end of life or seniors,
Yeah.
that we can support them in a way that's comforting for them and sits well for us.
Yeah. Oh, I love that. And you were doing this a couple of years ago, maybe or maybe not still. Are you still doing flower essences and things? I feel like this is a yes. She's grabbing things if you're not watching this.
Um, the so I love a bush flower essence called Transition. I recommend that to people to take. Also, emergency essences or bark flower has a rescue remedy. Yeah, I'm still into all that kind of stuff. I love it.
Amazing. And do you offer it to people also still?
I can make up the essences, but I tend to point people to websites to get it sent out because it's quicker.
Yeah.
Like they can get it from the Australian Bushfire Essence site in 2 days. It takes 10 days for it to come from me because
Yeah.
of Australia Post. So I tend to point people in locations to get it because I might want you to start using that
Sooner.
essences straight away. So,
Yeah.
it really does depend. But if
And
you
oh, go ahead. I
I
think
was
we're
going to
gonna
say,
say the
well,
same thing.
if I was doing a call with somebody in America, I'd be telling them to go to Amazon to get it, you see. So
Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah.
depends where they are in the world. That's why I tend to say go buy it online.
So, with that being said, people could have a call with you and you could direct them in which kind of essence would be best for their specific situation.
Yes.
Correct. Yeah.
Yes.
Amazing. Well, that
And
feels like the biggest part of it, right? Is that somebody is educated to say, this is actually the one that will support you in what is currently happening or your animal.
don't forget too that pets that are still here, if their pet passed, the ones that are here, they grieve and they need support too. So I always suggest essences for them too.
Oh, yeah. Oh, that is such a good, oh gosh, we could like go into a whole nother aspect of including, and you can tell me if this feels like too big of a topic to talk about now, but how like including other animals in the transition process or, what effect it can have on the remaining animals that are living. Like
Yeah.
that's so important. It's a,
I try and include all of my animals in the process.
yeah,
And that way then everybody knows and understands because I believe sometimes even though our pets read our minds and know everything that's going on, sometimes some animals don't always understand that their friend has passed
yeah,
because we might have taken them to the vet
hmm,
and whatever happens in there, and they're still looking for them.
yeah,
And it's giving them an opportunity, you know, as much as this is in my book, but this is really interesting. My cat Spyro, when he passed, it happened over 5 days. Um, at the very end, I made a decision that I would call the vet in, and they euthanized him beside my bed, right? Because that's where he was.
hmm,
And I didn't want to pick him up and move him. Anyway, after he passed, I brought him downstairs in a basket and I put him on the dining room table. I reflect back now and think maybe that wasn't the best choice, but anyway,
yeah,
when I put him on the table and I watched, there was like this beautiful little sparkling light coming up. It was the most, I should have videoed it maybe, but it was the
wow,
most incredible thing, right?
yeah,
And he was just still pliable. It was just incredible. He looked like he was sleeping.
yeah,
So then I popped them on the floor, the basket, him, on the floor, and allowed all the dogs to sit around him and sniff him and do all this. And
amazing.
it just felt so beautiful, right? But
Yeah.
if you'd seen this gorgeous little cat, like he's the one on my book, this little guy here, right?
Oh,
He was the funniest cat ever. And just to be able to see this and watch, and everybody kind of got to say goodbye
yeah,
because only one could make it upstairs when the euthanizing process was happening. The others couldn't do the stairs because they were mature
yeah,
seniors. So I needed them to be comfortable with it. So also don't want to finish on a sad note. It was beautiful to
yeah.
allow everybody part of that process.
Oh. And like you said, very important, right? Whether it's having the conversation and or if they get to actually be a part of it so that essentially everyone's on the same page of what's happening and their emotions, their feelings, everybody gets to be seen and heard in those moments and get to be supported in the way that they need to be able
Absolutely.
to move forward with all of the information needed to be whole, right? So, okay, before I ask you the last question, is there anything else that you feel like, I mean, that's maybe worded terribly because there's so many things, but for our time right now, is there anything that feels important to share with people when it comes to pet loss, when it comes to grief, when it comes to supporting your animals, whether going up to the process, through the process, on the other side of the process? Is there anything that's like comes to mind? You're like, yes, you need to know.
Well, since you've been talking, I've got about five things, but
Yeah.
one quick thing I'll say is, say for instance, you've made the decision that tomorrow's the day that you're going to help your pet transition. Spend today being with them.
Mm,
And, it's not always about doing a bucket list, but, sometimes you could say create a bucket list. But one of my biggest regrets was with Ajax. I mean, he had the most glorious coat. Like, he was a golden retriever with loads of feathers and all this. And I kept saying, oh, I want to get a photo session done, but I haven't bathed him.
mm,
Like, really, who cares that I didn't bath him? I should have still had a photo session done because I would have had those beautiful lasting memories. But instead, I didn't. I mean, I have loads of snapshots, like I've got a whole load of them down there, but
yeah.
I didn't have a professional photo done, and that was a regret of mine. So use the day before or 2 days before, get some photos, have some fun, write a story, maybe do a little ceremony so that when the time does come, you're actually preparing yourself, you're preparing them, but you've made these memories that you can carry forward, knowing that it was done with love and joy and that there's no last minute regrets.
Mm, I love
Say
that.
the things that you want to say.
Yeah. Oh,
That
so
would be my
good, so
advice.
important. Yes. And I knew there'd be more than one because there's so many things, right? It's like I feel like I worded that absolutely terribly right from the beginning. But that's okay. Maybe there'll be well, we can do a follow-up one and we can talk more about all the other things. And there's so much, right? And it's such an important topic. And so I'm so grateful for the work that you do in the world and for also coming in and sharing it with all of us because it, like I said, it's so important and something that if we start talking about it more, we can help normalize it for other people to talk about it more and to start exploring things and not have it be so, like I said, shrouded in the darkness, right? And so we get to bring it to the light. We might have resisted it in the past, but now we get to bring it to the light and it's so great. And the way I would love to end it is asking you, what is a lesson that you have learned from an animal?
Wow.
Which
There's so
I
many of
hard.
them,
Yeah.
Emma.
Which I know is
I did,
I know it's hard. So there'll be one that comes to the surface at least.
I would just say, be in the moment.
Mm, yeah.
It's very easy I've got a very busy mind. Ooh,
Yeah.
all over the place. But to bring yourself back, bring all your energy back and just be in the moment because that's where they come from. They come from the moment. They don't live in the future or the past. They live in the moment and they experience the moment. And that would be what I would say to somebody. Just bring yourself back into the moment because there's so much to be had in this moment.
Yeah.
We don't need to be busily running around doing all the things. Everything that we need is in this moment.
Mm. Mm. So important, such a great lesson, and one that many of us continue to work with, right?
I
That is
write
one
that
of the
down my
lessons. Well, that's
hand.
one of the lessons Ranger's here to teach me. So I know it well and it's great. And so I love that so much. Okay. Thank you so much for being here. It's again so important. And I will put all of your information in the show notes. So your book and where to get it, the Facebook group, and then your website too. So if there's anything else, where can people find you?
Well, primarily my animal communication is Donna Doolittle. And remember, it's the Donna Doolittle in Australia.
Yeah,
I thought I was unique, but I think there's one in America.
I think there is too.
Um, but, come say hi. Emma and I both do the same thing. So, I love this lady. I even go and get readings with this lady for my pets as well because, we are all coming from the same place. But, you're welcome to drop on over. If you'd like to join the group, hang out in there. Let me know that you've seen Emma and I. And of course, I'd encourage you to get that book because even though it's my book, there's so much great information to help us. And one lady said to me, "Oh, I can't buy your book because I'm just not there yet." And I've gone, well, maybe you can get the book because there's other fun stories in there, right? I do talk about messages and signs, and I try and normalize so much about what we've talked about here that it's not just about sadness, it's actually bringing the light in. So,
Oh,
yeah,
it's so good. And right, it's not something to wait until the end, right? Or until after or until you're already experiencing the grief. It's something that can be part of the knowledge gathering before you have the conversations, before you decide how everything's going to unfold and you move forward with a transition. And so, yeah, I think it's so important. And just because we are both animal communicators, the way I see it is it's same but different, right? We all connect to the same being, but we end up receiving slightly different things or in different ways because of who we are.
absolutely.
And
Yeah.
so I find it so important for all of us to experience and get to go to different people to be able for our animals to be seen and heard and experienced in different ways. So, yes, same, and also different. So, I will put all of your information in the show notes for everybody to easily find. And thank you again so much for being here. And we will see you all later. All right. Bye for
Take
now.
care. Thank you.